No, it's him saying that was the second best one. It's just
Might be the best one, better than Rogue One.
No, God, you're just
go away.
Oh, you're
go away.
so wrong.
Is it some of that
Shut the
government
fuck up,
funded?
Andreas. You don't know what you're talking about.
It must be. It must have been the translation. He got subtitles that were like made the movie better somehow.
Yeah, maybe their voice actor was better, in the Norwegian translation. But
That could have been
is it some of that government funded LSD for your mental
I don't
health?
watch translated things. What the hell?
Well, I mean, English is your second language, isn't it?
I assume the movies are state-run government channels, so you see what they want you to see.
There's just a placard up in the corner saying "Smile" the entire time. This isn't China, so okay.
Saying Solo was pretty good.
You're insane.
So we're going to change things up this time, and we're going to talk about things that we don't like, just in general, and why we don't like them. I know, right? It's so far afield from what we.
I can't believe we're doing this brave and stunning topic.
Right?
No, we're amazing
today, aren't we?
I don't know why we have to have a topic. We just shoot the shit. Easy.
Flies
by.
Because our options were, I could talk to you about 2 years old Star Wars that I watched. You could talk to me about some Norwegian true crime stuff. Jacob has a 24-hour one-shot he did with level 20 characters. Like, it's a smorgasbord, yes, but it doesn't exactly tie the show together. If you get my drift.
I want to talk about the Way of Kings Kickstarter for the Leatherbounds, because that was just like,
you were the only one.
Amazing.
See, yeah, again, smorgasbord, but
All right, Andreas, since you're the one who's so easily entertained by jangly keys, why don't you go with something you don't like and why? First.
Something I don't like and why. The Land, a book series. It's called Chaos Seed. It's lit RPG by Ella Kong. I've read the first book, and I would say it's probably. I mean, my roommate, he loves it, and I really wanted to like it, so I could talk with him about it. He's read all the books, and there's just this. Okay, so it's his first book, so I might give the second book a chance too, but just this happens in the first book within a chapter of each other. He's like, oh no, these poor wolves who's gotten infected. I have to kill them because they're infected. It's so sad. And like a chapter later, he's like killing hundreds of forest creatures for XP and does not give a flying fuck about it. And it was just so inconsistent. And I just hated it so much. And the whole book was like that.
Is it an American author? Because it's starting to make sense, actually. So,
Ella Kong, I think he's American, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I think I've heard of him. I think I saw a panel that he was on.
I might in the Vegas sense.
He was on a panel with Jim Butcher once.
That's why I know his name, because he was on that same panel. Yeah. Okay.
Weren't we all at some point?
Yeah, right. Did he kill him for XP?
Like, come on. Oh no, these poor wolves! I have to kill them. This hurts my heart. And then, like a chapter later, I'm killing this fox. I'm killing this rabbit. I'm killing this other wolf. Doesn't matter now. I'm just killing.
That sounds like the progression they try to take you through in The Last of Us 2 when you're just murdering puppies and then they show you that they were nice puppies once.
Don't bring up The Last of Us 2. We're just going to get demonetized.
Just for mentioning the game.
Yeah.
I know that there's a decent amount of hate around that game.
ELOU2.
Yeah.
Better.
Okay, this is out of order. Like the voice actors have literally gotten death threats because people hated the ending or something so much.
Yeah, I've never understood things like that.
People are nuts, man.
Yeah, this is like, what the even if you don't like this.
I get the level of crazy where it's like you can't separate the actor from the role, right? So people thinking like Liam Neeson is an actual badass or something like that when he's really like a pacifist, which I find greatly hilarious on so many levels. But to like follow it up with like, I hated that shit you were in, die, like what kind of crazy?
Even to the terrible writers, like I hate Rian Johnson more than anyone probably healthily should, but I could never see myself sending him a death threat. I just don't want him to get work anymore. That would be much more satisfying to me than scribbling out a magazine cutout letters and telling him to die.
Like, I'm so torn on him because the Last Jedi sucked and broke me in a way I never thought I could be broken by media. But then Knives Out was fantastic.
See, I don't get that. Knives Out to me is so unbelievably overrated.
I haven't
really
seen it yet,
enjoyed it.
but I didn't know he
haven't
was
seen
involved in it.
Yeah.
he's-
That was, I mean, it was funny because seeing the cast and crew for Knives Out was like, we've all done really cool, amazing shit, and we're going to do something completely different now. You know, so you've got, you know, Rian Johnson just did Star Wars, mega blockbuster. He's going to do this. You've got Chris Evans just got out of 400 movies where he was Captain fucking America. He's going to do this, you know. Just it was
James
just
Bond
like,
is just playing a Kentucky Fried Colonel.
right. That's why I want to see the movie. Like, I get it. It's a murder mystery thing. It's kind of like Clue, whatever. That's there too. It, you know, from the trailer, I'm judging it obviously, but yeah, just even the cast and crew. Like, there are plenty of movies that I've watched that are shit tier, but I've watched them just because, you know, either the voice actors or the directors or whoever, and be like, why did this fail so hard? They've got so many good people in it, you know. So
yeah, I think people are just you know, they don't like Rian Johnson anymore, so they take this like hatred into it.
yeah.
There was
had a
some
good
of that, but I
premise,
was
but-
happy enough to go into, because when I first saw Looper, I mean, I thought it was stupid, but I didn't mind it. It wasn't anything terrible to me.
Right.
It had shitty time travel mechanics, but you know, most things that involve that do.
Right.
So I'm already
It's
predisposed.
not a good movie, but it's like, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie.
No, it's
Sure.
it's meh.
It's,
So it's like,
it's one
alright.
of those that there are too many good people in this movie for it to be this mediocre, and I think that tips it over the edge a little bit. But go
Right.
ahead.
And so I'm willing to be like, okay, so as long as he's not adapting shit that somebody else has, and he's not following what came before and what came way before,
Excuse me.
so he clearly can't do that. All right, fine. He wrote a man movie once. Maybe this will be okay. It's got a pretty good cast. Fine. And then you watch it, and it's like, it's so spectacularly unspectacular. And everyone was like, oh my God, that twist. And I was just like, what? Really?
Gotcha.
This is what
Pay
keeps
atten-
you.
Who
If you
did
pay
not
attention
see
to the
that coming?
dialogue, the movie's solved in 25 minutes.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Depending on the movie, I kind of enjoy those because at least it's like, you know, oh, good, you're following the formula, and if you do a good job following the formula, then it's fine. But if you do a bad job, and it's like, brother, it is scribble in the colors, like it's color by number, and connect the dots, and you fucked that up. Like, what are you doing?
Oh man, Rian Johnson can't do that. He's always got to subvert expectations.
Right.
Maybe one day
And
he'll make a
that's-
movie of subverting, like he'll subvert
And
expectations by not subverting
every time I
Just
see
have to
him
do it
speak,
well.
every time I see him talk about how he doesn't find any of criticism of anything of his valid. He doesn't.
jeez.
How he wanted to do things. A very old interview where he's like, "I want to make movies where at least half the people hate it." That's his intent. And so it's like, why am I paying attention to you?
Right.
Why do you get anything?
Right. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And I mean, unfortunately, it seems like you get a lot of directors like that, especially the ones that people are like, I mean, it's starting to turn into like modern art, right? Where it's just like, you just don't understand, man. It's a fucking like hyperspace ship slamming into another ship. What's to understand? It is a line on canvas, man.
It's not high art, and it
Yeah.
breaks the world mechanics. So no,
Right.
there's nothing good about it.
Right. So yeah, like beautiful scene, you know, but we're telling a story. It's not just, you know, it's not just a painting at this point, you know, like there is a deeper meaning. It's called the story. So
Nah, writing doesn't matter, man.
right. Well, but that's kind of where we're at, right? Like on the one hand, you have, you know,
He was kind of handed a shit turd, to be fair. It was like, here's this
Nah.
trilogy, you do the
No,
second
no.
one.
No,
He-
he doesn't get that excuse.
yeah, he might have been handed a shit turd, but he was like, watch me blend it into something even more shitty.
And as
Yeah,
bad
please-
as the
I mean, at least he tried something new.
no, don't give me that either.
you're very much going through mental gymnastics to like pull out a win here. So like
I mean,
there's a lot of excuses that even he himself wouldn't like. He's like, don't say that about my shit. My shit was amazing. Like the fact that Rey can see herself through all of space and time and none of it
God, that
matters
was
because she's the
dumb.
source of her own origin.
What the
She's
fuck?
not yeah, that's basically what he was going for. Like Rey, whoever Rey's parents are don't
Oh.
matter because she is the source of
It
her
is.
own story.
It is
And which
fascinating.
means nothing because it didn't go anywhere. Now,
Yeah.
granted, he didn't have complete control over that, but what he was doing doesn't jive with just about literally anything else either, though. Like, maybe if he had been given the entire trilogy, we could have gotten a coherent story out of it, at least from his perspective. I will give him the benefit of the doubt there. But the difference is the story he told did not jive at all with what Abrams was doing, bookending this thing, and so they all fall down. It's a house of cards,
Was
and if
Abrams
they don't
supposed
stand,
to do the last one?
No.
Or did they pull
Oh,
him
it
in?
was Chris Terrio, wasn't it? Who wrote the last one?
Oh,
I
just
know
initially,
he was
somebody
kind of like a
wrote the last
last minute
one.
substitution. Like he was supposed to be busy
Or
with
maybe not. Who wrote the last one?
what's the Mission Impossible, wasn't he, or something like that? He was supposed to be busy with something else, and then they couldn't get whoever the third one was supposed to be to pan out. But
Wasn't
I think
no, I was thinking it was gonna be the Game of Thrones guys.
no, because they were supposed to do their own trilogy.
right.
Yeah.
It has nothing to
And
do
then
with the
season
Skywalker.
8 tanked.
Yeah. Well, more like they shot season 8 in the face, hoping to
They're
get
like,
free of
we
it
got
so that
Star
they could-"
Wars.
Yeah,
I'm executing Game of Thrones. Let's get out of here.
right.
Oh, it was Chris
It
Terrio.
just nonsense. So,
Or wait, or
all right, this is a little too Star Wars centric. So you hate a book series that nobody's ever read because you don't understand American values about how we can be broken up about one animal and murder hundreds
It's
of
so inconsistent.
yeah, I get you. So, but that is a very important line there because
In
we'll
fact,
get to
I'm
that,
updating my
but-
Goodreads right now. I gave it a 3. It's not a 3. It's a 2.
Oh wow, whew, that's harsh, man. In this trying time, you just bringing down the heat.
I fucking hate I hate when people say that. Like this in these trying times.
Oh yeah,
Or we're
No,
all
this
in
is-
this together. I'm like, no, I'm in this for myself. Thank you very much.
I do.
Now,
it on
that's
purpose
an
because
American
it's
mindset
ridiculous,
right there.
but- What that in these trying times, or
No, I'm not in this with other people. I'm in this with myself. Fuck you guys.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so so other than the slogan, Jacob, and you know, what are we calling you, Jacob Prime? So bearded
Gee,
Jacob.
you said.
So-
Colin Trevorrow. That's who originally did Rise of Skywalker.
I like Jacob Prime. From now on, adopt the Jacob Prime.
right.
Well, you're European. You don't get to do that. You don't do monarchs anymore.
So what's a thing that you hate?
I brought this up in Five Fantasy a while back, but whenever they introduce a child to create drama and tension in a TV show or movie, like, oh
Okay.
no, you didn't know you had a child from there, and it's just there to fuck things up.
You mean
Oh, man.
changes?
Yeah,
Like,
changes.
my first time through Gilmore Girls, like they did that, and I just quit. I'm like, nope,
Isn't that the whole premise of the show?
no.
No, no.
Lorelai,
Have you
this is like
read
the last
Changes?
season, and they're like, hey, we're gonna see that Luke has a kid just to break him and Lorelai up. It's like, oh god,
I think I'm more
yeah.
interested by the fact that you stuck with Gilmore Girls that long than anything else.
it's actually I enjoy it.
I
Mrs.
mean,
Maisel is
I haven't
better.
watched it
Well,
religiously
yeah,
or
but
anything.
that's not saying much. I mean, Mrs.
But-
Maisel is a much higher quality written.
I
Same
mean, the
people.
episodes I have watched,
I know,
enjoy.
but they've
enjoyed
gotten better.
The family dynamic, the daughter and the mother and the friends, and it was nice. It's like a feel good show.
Yeah, and it's popcorn. You know,
I mean, I like the first couple of years of it, and then I was just like, it's not really for me anymore. But I like that kind of snappy, Sorkin, what's her Palladino type writing where it's
Mhm.
quick-witted and fast. And most people are like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's fun.
What's
Right.
another
I-
example that doesn't involve Gilmore Girls
oh,
Changes?
or
Scrubs.
Dresden Files?
changes.
Scrubs?
I didn't mind how they did it.
Uh-huh.
Scrubs
I mean,
did it
why?
poorly.
Obviously, changes follows the trope.
Yeah, but by the
it-
time,
they-
I assume
they
you're talking
don't.
about JP's kid, right? That she gets pregnant.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean, by that point, it was bad anyway. I mean, Scrubs for like the first, 3, maybe 4 years you could push it was the really good stuff.
I'd say through about season. I think season 5 is probably when it starts to shift. But like like Frasier did it really well because Roz gets pregnant, but like it doesn't. And yes, it creates storylines, but it's not like we're going to use this to destroy her or whatever. It's just, she's still Roz. She's just got a kid now.
Well, I mean, even we're talking about Scrubs, the earlier version of it, when Cox has the kid that he thinks isn't his at first with Jordan.
Right.
Like, and that becomes a dynamic, and it's interesting and it's funny. And
that was a lot better than the way they did it with JD. Yeah, I had to like hate watch the last 2 seasons of that show just to get through it, even though the ending of Scrubs is amazing.
Yeah,
so
the real is very good.
The real Scrubs, not that bullshit. The fact there is that 9th season of Scrubs pisses me off.
I actually made the mistake of watching that season all the way through once, and I was very upset with myself.
Yeah, so those are the things I hate. I hate J.K. Rowling's writing style.
How dare you?
In general, or just in screenplays?
I mean, I kind of hate J.K. Rowling, but the books are a special place in my heart.
Like I had to just straight up hate quit Order of the Phoenix. I was like, I just can't handle this. She said the same thing 5 times in a row now. We get it. Move on.
She really is the modern textbook definition for death of the author. It's amazing.
So
burial intent.
I believe I believe in word of the author as a concept. I mean, if they say it, it's true. But if there's one thing that's made me reconsider that,
right,
it's fucking J.K. Rowling.
Well, that's the thing. It's a spectrum. I mean, that's why and going with what we do mainly, I tend to put a lot of credence in Word of Jim's, but he also stays fairly consistent to them. If they're tidbits that aren't going to come up or be impactful, and we all go nuts over it, but it's like, we already know the Oblivion War is not going to be a thing. It's just this fun little back bit of world building that he came up with. And it's like, see, there's more stuff behind the scenes, but this is not going to impact anything. It doesn't change the fact that everyone's still like, oh my God, this is a thing. It's going to happen. But fine. As long as you stay consistent, great. Tolkien was the same way.
Importantly, it's because it happens on screen for the book, right? There are published short stories that address that, and that, I think that's where J.K. Rowling loses a lot of credibility for ex post facto opinions, right? Is that her writing is what's canon because it's a book. Like, it's great that she's got her opinions and her tweets and all this other shit. But when she says, oh no, Hermione is actually blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, funny, because here is a passage from your own book that contradicts that statement, And it's just like, why? Why are you coming up with these opinions after the fact that are either, just, I don't know, like from a fan perspective, it's a wild ass guess, but because you're the author, you get to say so, right? Versus or contradict your own material. Like, it's one thing, it's one thing entirely to come by and say like, oh, cool, well, we've got Hogwarts in Scotland, and we've got, I forget the other schools in the other countries. And then P.S. that this didn't happen on screen, but here's what the American school is called. And here's what the American, animals are, right? Because Hogwarts has Snake and, all this other shit. That shit's okay because you're further building the world and it doesn't contradict anything that happens in the book, right? But when you come out after the tweet to be like, actually, Ron is gay, it'd be like, but bro, he's married to a chick. Like, I'm not saying he can't also like dudes, but like, why would you say that? Why would you say something that clearly contradicts,
I don't know if
and without explanation? It's like, Mrs. Rowling, why aren't there more gay characters? Well, it's a good thing you asked, because actually Ron's gay the whole time. Like, you didn't know that because I didn't write it, but here it is. I
mean, it's Dumbledore, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to use specific examples because I don't actually have a horse in this race. But but that's the difference.
Well, I mean, it highlights it. It would be like, it's one thing if like Fantastic Beasts. I mean, if they had stayed with that whole other thing, it's in New York, it's with this version of the Wizarding world, there's some intersectionality, but even in the first one, which was far better than the second one,
the second was god awful.
You're making the world so small because it brings in other Wizard Hitler, it brings in Grindelwald, it brings in elements it brings in a nonsensical way in which the story gets resolved. It's just like, stop, build your world out. Why you made that's the same thing?
I mean,
Going back to Star Wars.
All this Twitter stuff.
There were supposed to be 6 of those damn things.
Yeah, there was supposed to be 5, I think.
Was it
and
5? I
it's
thought it was
just-
6.
If we get even a
did they
third one, I'll
actually-
be shocked.
Did they actually kibosh those after the second one?
I
Because I thought it
think
was still.
so.
Well, they
eventually
pushed them.
coming.
No, I think it's been kiboshed because first she went super woke, and that's fine, even though it's inconsistent. And then,
Now she's going
but
against
then she
woke
went,
people in their
but then she
mind.
went something that
Right.
wasn't woke,
Yeah.
and now she's getting kiboshed.
Plus, there's
She's-
Corona. Plus, there's that and the other thing. I wouldn't be shocked if they'd never make another one.
Yeah.
I would be more stunned if we get a third one.
I'm a little bummed, but only because of the potential, right? Like the second one really is bad for a lot of reasons. I mean, the only parts of it that I enjoyed for the most part were basically carbon copy from the first one, right? Like, P.S. there are magical beasts, which, is not at all a shocker because it's in the title, and they get loose and magical shenanigans ensue. You almost get some interesting parts with some of the world building, but then what they do to some of the main characters that would otherwise have no fucking reason to do the things that they do by the end. And so you've got that. And then like they try to make me care about Credence. And I got to say, like, he was there in the first one. Like I could empathize with his story and what happened to him is tragic. But by the second one, I'm like, what are we
Go
doing?
away.
Like,
No,
yeah.
I got.
But didn't you know
Who cares?
I actually juggled the baby 11 times? So you're not really Credence. You're Albus Hermione Dumbledore. Like,
I
what?
got-
What?
I
Why
got
is that a plot?
so upset with that ending.
Yeah.
I was just like, when it ended, and I remember saying, I like the second one. It was pretty good. He's not big into Harry Potter, and I was just like,
Wow.
I
Or
don't
good
want to talk about it.
stories.
I just
Good
don't want to talk
stories,
about
bro.
it.
It doesn't even have to be a Harry Potter thing. Find me the movie where the fact that I got pissed off at my brother and switched him with a baby and then the ship went down, where that's a plot point, and
I was
that's
going to say,
okay.
actually, I think this
Like-
might be the most apt comparison as to why I think Knives Out is overrated, because it's the same principle. But wait, there's more. And wait, no, it's not this thing. It's just, and it's all in the last 30 minutes, and it's all rushed, and it's all just, stop it.
It's like the author director is sitting there and be like, you thought you figured it out, but we've got a triple double cross.
And then even in the end, it's like, I thought, but I was wrong.
right.
And I wrote it. What do I know?
But it's a scene out of Mystery Men. It'd be like, but I did know that you know, but I didn't know that you knew that I knew that you knew. Did you know
Now,
that?
that is something I do love. I do love that movie.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again. It's been too long.
So Mystery Men is one of those movies that is inexplicably good. It has every reason for me to hate it, but I love that movie. So
Never seen it. Or if I have, it's been so long,
Oh,
I've forgotten it entirely.
it's-
It came out in like
That's Ben
2000,
Stiller,
I
right?
think, right?
Yeah,
Ben-
it's a superhero movie before those were actually good, and they're
Right.
basically riffing on superhero movies, but the
Yeah,
dialogue
99,
is just it's so great.
Mhm.
And it's Ben Stiller, and I hated every movie of his except for Mystery Men for some reason. And like to the point where I actually had a schism in my brain that I was like, Ben Stiller's not in that. He's the main guy. It's just
Yeah.
like, look, I shovel. That's what I do. I shovel well. I shovel really well. So
You
It's-
got
it's so good.
there's Hank Azaria, William H Macy, Janine Garofalo.
These are big
Mhm.
names.
Yeah,
It's
Well,
yeah.
she's not really a big name, but yes, she's known.
She is now, I think. She's bigger.
I know like none of these names.
That's because you live on the other side of the world for no reason.
Yeah, like not relevant to the plot, but like not really. But one of my favorite lines out of the movie is the whole like, yeah, they said that his death was accidental. He fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets, but I always suspected a little bit of foul play, as have
Yes.
I. It's just like it's just so ridiculous but hilarious at the same time. So.
it is fantastic.
So EG is going to take over the show if he tells us what he hates. So I think the director should go next.
I don't like Joss Whedon.
Yeah, we know that. No, come up with something.
We
new.
know that, but
We
the
know I
question-
don't like Star Wars, and we still talked about that for no reason.
The question, the underlying question though, is why, right? And she and I spent an hour talking while we weren't recording. Boom, got it in, and I think that's
Yeah.
part of the genesis for this. So
Yeah, okay, so I have seen some of Buffy. I have not seen all of it. I did not enjoy Buffy. I have seen a larger chunk of Angel, but I don't think I've seen all of it, and I enjoyed that a lot more.
Right.
Yeah, I
So,
did too.
I had the conclusion. I just didn't like Buffy, the character, or the witticisms, or any that.
Right.
There are other things that I don't like about the fan base around Joss Whedon that kind of permeates it and
Okay.
turned me off to trying to watch things like Firefly because people
Okay.
just talked about it too much, had too much of an I am very smart bleh about it, and I didn't enjoy Avengers. I thought he did that badly.
Hmm.
So
It's funny you
You
say
don't
I
like
am
Marvel
very-
movies either, so
I do like
but
some.
She mostly doesn't like them because the stink of Joss Whedon is there, right? So one of the things that came out of our conversation was that you didn't like the cheap laughs, right? That there's
I didn't
something
like some
about
of the cheap laughs. I didn't like
Yeah.
there was just some really dumb behaviors which happened for no reason. He kept getting lauded for having written women well, but I thought Black Widow was a terrible character. So it was just like, prove it. He's not writing her well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
like,
well,
why is he getting lauded
I
like that?
think-
Because she's pretty and she's on a big screen. That doesn't make her a good woman character.
I mean, I really wouldn't give him credit for writing her since she was in like 3 or 4 movies before that one. So her character was pretty well defined. I know she was in Iron Man 2, Captain America 2. Well, Captain America 2 was
It was
I
after.
think that was
The only one she was in
after,
before that
right.
was
Iron Man.
it
2.
was Iron Man 2.
And so I think part of it is she is actually pretty terrible in Iron Man 2. And she's literally in Iron Man 2, she's a walking lawsuit for
Yes.
Tony Stark. So like that's like most of her character until like towards the very end.
I got to be
And
honest. I
then-
think she was of the first couple of movies she was in, Winter Soldier and then Ultron were two of her best written ones
Right.
out of the
Right.
first couple.
Well,
So,
and Winter
I
Soldier
really
is so
I really
it's-
enjoyed her in Winter Soldier. That's
Yeah.
probably my favorite.
And that's one of the ones you haven't seen.
Marvel.
Right?
Yeah, so
yeah.
I mean, it could be that she's done well in that movie, and I didn't
Right.
finish Ultron, so maybe she gets better in there. But her in the movie Avengers was bad and stupid.
I still don't buy it, but I get what you're talking about, the opening scene. But I think there's
The opening
there's
scene,
better
and when she was
parts.
trying to get information
with
out of
Loki,
Loki, and then she gets
right?
like, "Oh, that's what you're doing," and she lays it out to him instead
Mm-hmm.
of like acting like she's still confused, and then being awesome at the information that she got. She instead has to lay it out for whoever dumb watcher isn't able to follow.
I was gonna say for
Who's the
us,
bad guy?
audience. Yeah. So
I didn't
But-
know she did a voice in the SpongeBob
But-
movie.
Make it another talking head character that she can talk to that isn't explaining it all to the bad guy that she's figured it out. Oh, she's gonna go try to save the day.
right. Sure. And I mean I can't really argue it. It's the scene we got, it didn't bother me. You know, I think that's where it is. So yeah. But and having not watched Firefly, like, you know, four strong female characters, Zoe is one of the ones that come to mind. And I want you to watch it just so you can tell me what you hate about the character, because I can't think of anything. You know, like she's dry, she's strong, and she's witty in the right moments. And not to say that any of those are like virtues or anything like that. It's just to describe the character. But, you know, like she doesn't typically crack jokes, but there are so many times where she plays, you know, the straight character, right? You've always got the, you know, the clown, and you've got the straight character for the joke. And she contrasts very well with Wash,
Right.
you know, and for those sorts of things. And like so many of her lines that I use, you know, like, you know, just, I don't know, like, and she basically sets up Wash's character. Like, he wouldn't be nearly as funny without her to play off against, you know. She's definitely one of my favorites from the show, but I mean, it's hard to say. Like, and it's funny, you're talking about, you know, the fans of Firefly, they seem so smart. I have no idea who you've been talking to, because
No, they thought themselves too smart.
yeah, sure.
It's the subreddit of I am very smart. Like, I know this thing, and
No.
therefore, and like that is the impression I've gotten out of people
which
who talk about
subreddit
Joss
are you
Whedon.
on
I'm
for that?
I am very smart.
Oh, really? Then
Yeah.
don't go there. That's not indicative of like what people are actually like.
Well, okay, so
the internet.
that is the behavior that I'm talking about. But where I've actually seen it was, like I mentioned when we were talking about
subreddit. Go see what they say about the show,
and then get spoiled.
Or go to I Am Very Smart, where the whole point is to lampoon people who are idiots and assholes.
I thought you established you weren't going to watch this.
Not to mention the fact that you're like, I'm mad at I Am Very Smart, when the thing has got to be 85% fucking Rick and Morty references. Like, come
they
on,
probably
that's
are.
a fan.
Like, I haven't actually
base.
looked at
Tell me about it.
Actual subreddit, but right, the annoying people from Rick and Morty. I think a handful of years ago they were the annoying people of Firefly.
Oh,
they're the same people.
I'm so glad I'm going to meet you in person soon, so I could just like drop the elbow. Like, what the hell kind of worldview do you have here? Like, what brought you to that conclusion? Like,
life.
She just hates. That's just
I'm
her. That's just what she does.
Very weird camp insofar as I never knew what Firefly really was. I never bothered with it after the fact because of the people who were saying how much they loved it, because I was like, whatever, it was one season and I doubt it's as good as whatever. But I saw the movie and I really liked the movie without any context, without any whatever. And that's one of the movies that, like, if it's ever just on a movie channel, I'll just be like, from whatever part it's on, I'll sit down and watch that. I really like the movie.
Right.
But I've still never seen the show, and I'm probably never going to.
And it's interesting because I have a very similar story. I mean, my family, guess what? We're all nerds. Surprise! That's where I learned it. I'm a nerd like my father before me. And and my children will also be nerds. But they all watched Firefly Friday nights on Fox, the poor bastards. And despite what they were up against, for the way that it was presented, they loved it. And then it got canceled, and there was great sadness in the land. It was as if, about 10,000 fans cried out at once and were silenced. And then the movie came out, and I don't even think I saw the movie in the theater. I think it was one of those like, hey, what's this movie? It kind of looks neat. There's spaceships and it's science fiction and whatever. And I wasn't really in a TV watching, like I had kind of been every week with Angel and Buffy for a while, and finally was like, I need to do different things in life, so I became a gamer. So I was kind of going through, and I'm like, I kind of missed the boat on Firefly, and part of it was like, why should I care about this show? Well, it's a space western. Pass. That sounds boring as shit. Who wants to see the Civil War in space? And then I watched the movie, and I'm like, oh my god, these characters are amazing, and the story is great. And then, to see River just gel by the end of the movie and kind of save the day was fantastic. And so, like, I had to go see what everybody else saw. And part of the problem with the Firefly TV show is that it's a half-told story, if even half. Like, they didn't make it through an entire season. He didn't get his second season, where a lot of the plot for the movie was theoretically taken from, and all of those things. So, like I definitely empathize with their plight, but because, I came in after the fact, that's my thing. It's like, if people want to know more about it, I'll tell them, go watch the movie. If you're not sure you're going to enjoy it, go watch the movie. The movie does a great job of encapsulating what you need to know about the story. And then if you want more stories afterwards, go watch the show.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest credit you can give him as a writer, is he managed to make that movie for someone who doesn't, at least from my point of view, didn't give a shit about the show, didn't know one thing about it, and yet you can watch that movie apart from everything else and never watch anything else, and you've got a story. You're fine. You're good.
And it's true. I mean, you don't need to see all of the shit from the show for it to make sense. It does help, right? Like, there are scenes that I can think of from the show that going into the movie, it's fan service, right? But the movie stands on its own at the same time. And I'm not even necessarily saying this is why Joss Whedon's the greatest in the world. I don't care about all that shit. I'm just saying the movie is great. And if you take those two things together, it does seem to be towards his credit. It's not really the argument that I'm making. I'm just,
they do the no sound in space thing very well.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I'm not sure the physics is all there, but the no sound in space part is there for sure. So I say that as a hedge, because as much a nerd as I am and things like that, I have enough suspension of disbelief that shit like that doesn't bother me. And like, Gravity, for example, was seamless, but the number of scientists and astronauts that came out afterwards would be like, well, it's pretty good, but, and I'm like, dude, don't ruin it. Like, like as far as I'm concerned, it's perfect. Like, shit, man. But so was Armageddon. I don't know. So, you know.
No,
I mean, I love all of Josh's things.
all of life.
I think I've seen every show he's made and every movie, except the little art house one he did.
I don't know.
Dollhouse?
Art house is like it's like a Shakespeare play, but
Oh, okay.
reinterpreted.
Gotcha.
So like
That's the
Romeo
only
and
thing I haven't
Juliet in
watched.
'98 when DiCaprio and whatever was in LA.
No.
Which is fantastic for its own reasons. But,
Oh, stop that! That was just...
come on, dude. There's bad in there, but fetch me my broadsword, and he reaches for an Uzi. Come on, that's classic movie right there. That's just.
Listen, just because it has a good moment.
I think I was certainly in elementary
Much
school when I
ado
saw
about
that,
nothing.
so it brought that down to my level. So, Americans.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I hate
1911s.
I hate Shakespeare. I've always hated Shakespeare. Part of the problem is Shakespeare is not something one should really read, although there is apparently quite a broad literary benefit to it. But I hated reading Shakespeare. To me, it was like, why am I doing this? I'm supposed to be seeing it. I'm losing things, not just
Right.
because I'm who can't get the English, but because I'm losing the element of this fact that I'm supposed to be seeing things. Like I can watch a Shakespeare play with all the same words, but I'm getting a lot more out of it.
I've never heard that, but it makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't
It
go
does.
watch scripts from Star Trek and be like, "Woo, go read the scripts. It's so great." Like, bro, it's a script of a TV show. Go fucking watch the show.
Right.
Shakespeare, he wrote plays. Obviously he wrote other things, but if you're reading the play, you are missing out on the visual media aspect of it. So,
I was feeling not very intellectually accomplished a few weeks ago and thinking like maybe I should actually sit down and read some Shakespeare, but I don't really want to. And my husband chimed in saying like you could just watch it. It's like, all right, we can like go to a theater and watch it that way, like have a night out or something, or YouTube.
Well, if you want to feel like you're an
That's
intellectual,
cultural.
how about you read the books that you still haven't read yet? How about you read Tolkien? How about you read
You're not really an intellectual.
It
because
was
you
in the
lead-
similar
because you-
vein of thinking of like, okay, I need to read probably Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, a whole bunch of other shit. I have a gigantic pile of textbooks and stuff that would really enrich me. I'm trying.
Would you really
if you
say that
want-
if you read
You're gonna read
Tolkien-
Moby Dick next. You're just gonna hit all the old classics.
I don't know. if I'll
I
do
can't help you on the reading point beyond what's already been suggested, but if you do want to feel cultured and that you've been to Broadway, you could always go watch Hamilton for 3 hours, and it's worth it. So,
I
It's a
don't
modern,
know
you
if
know,
I
just-
would enjoy Hamilton, and a lot of that has to do with like, why did it get so fucking
just
in my
watched-
face about being so popular?
I just
I watched it. I
for
watched
the
it a
first
few
time.
days ago.
I did
it's
too
a
on the
delight.
4th because I was like, because the family was like, yeah, we got nothing else to do and we're not gonna be
It's the
inconsiderate
guy
of fireworks.
who nearly missed the boat on the Dresden Files because too many of my friends were into it and were telling me to enjoy it, and I'm afraid it's a little too mainstream. I'm gonna tell you.
So
Hamilton's really good if you can get past the like rap battles and some of the other things. There's
Yeah,
obviously
there's a
there's
couple of the
suspension
early
of
numbers that
disbelief
are just,
involved there, but for what it
Well, of
is,
course, that's how
the
it's presented.
history
but
is there.
Yeah.
So
a couple of
What do you
the
mean get
early
past?
numbers are like
It's-
meh, but
It's a feature, not a bug.
no,
It's good.
not
Hamilton was solid.
exactly just that like it's too mainstream. It's that people are
It
very
came out a
in your
week ago.
face about it. No, it's been out for years.
I was
mean,
gonna
maybe
say, no,
not the
you-
Disney
well,
oh,
it's
thing.
been on
that's
Disney
been the
Plus
hottest-
a week
It's been the
ago,
hottest
so.
ticket for fucking years now.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 years by now. It's like I remember it being a political thing where the actors in during one of the plays started yelling at Mike Pence because he was in the audience and they didn't like him. And like it's the holier than thou.
Maybe because the founding fathers are spinning in their graves so fast we could harness them for renewable energy right now. But let's not get into that because that's a different kind of anger right now. Like, yeah, maybe it has something to do with that because the guys who are actually running our country aren't following the values that, Hamilton espoused. Maybe.
Some of them are. Some of them
I'm
are
just
big
saying
on. Some
the
of them are
show
big on
is
terrible.
a
things.
Really?
delight. Great show. creature. Watch it.
It's fine. It's a little long for my taste, but it's fine.
3 hours is quite a long time, but considering I had the option to break that up into a couple of days, which I did take advantage of.
I was going to say, if
and-
it's a choice between that or watching the Phantom of the Opera movie from several years ago,
I watched that and I
I'd rather
enjoyed
watch
it, but I was
Hamilton.
like 9.
Hmm.
that Phantom of the Opera movie.
The other thing is, like, you know, with something like Hamilton, you would normally be there in the theater, and it probably
Right.
wouldn't feel like 3 hours at that point.
Did you watch the Les Mis movie? Because it's like 100
Yeah.
times better than that.
Then Phantom of the Opera, yes, but it's still less.
No, I
of a
mean
show.
Hamilton's 100 times better than Les Mis.
What is a show?
As a production, the movie's
Well,
really bad.
We're talking about two different things. I mean, this is obviously just the taping of the Broadway show itself, so you're getting the more authentic. If they made this into a movie, I feel like it would be the same. It would. Broadway movies very rarely.
No, they made so many bad
very
decisions in Les Mis. It's so bad. The
Well,
singing
yeah,
is so awful,
but-
and most of those people can actually sing, but the decisions they made just made it really bad.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what they would do if it was Hamilton. It would be similar. These things very rarely translate over.
It was
well.
it's because they went that whole live mic thing, and like I don't know, I don't want to talk about it. I'm gonna get upset.
Let it out.
It's the theme of the
No.
episode, right? So-
Yeah, this is why we get mad about things.
because
No,
I
okay.
still got to come back around to the directors. So get yours out.
Okay, so
What? She did
okay,
hers.
so Les
Not-
Mis the
not-
movie
Yeah.
with Hugh
not
Jackman,
really.
right? The
Uh-huh. The
So,
only one.
Hugh
Well,
Jackman.
that's actually
he-
not true. They did one many years ago with Liam Neeson and Jeffrey Rush. It was actually not bad.
So Hugh Jackman, he he can sing. He's actually a really good singer. What's his name? The Gladiator.
Russell Crowe
Russell Crowe.
is not.
While not a Broadway singer, he's actually been singing in the band since the 80s, and he sings very well.
Yeah, he was
Uh,
just terrible in that movie.
Yeah, he was really bad, and there's reasons for that. Bad decisions is the reason for that. Among other things, they decided the only reason they got the Les Mis rights to make the movie was they convinced the guy who has the rights, like, oh, we're gonna mic everybody up and do live recording, and he's like, oh yeah, that's what we will do. A movie set is really loud, and it's a really bad idea. But they did
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it would have been a nice concept if it wasn't like the first time they tried it and they had so many things to work out with it. Like if this was the third production to ever do it and they learned from their predecessors, it might have gone really well.
So we have Hugh Jackman, who's a great singer, who like decides, okay, I want to get really Wolverine ripped for this prison scene that I'm in. So he goes like on this water diet and is super dehydrated and can't sing for shit because you can't sing for shit if you're dehydrated.
Mm.
And it just sounds awful. And Russell Crowe had like 4 different voice teachers who all taught him different things, and there was no coordination. So he's awful. But there's also really, really mind-bogglingly good parts. But it's just hidden in so much poop. And it's just so
thank
sad.
you.
Really? Is that the
I needed
technical term we're going
visual. My brain
So
was
many
like, "Ooh, image, no thanks."
No, I'm picturing fucking Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. That's one big pile of shit.
The guy from Fantastic Beasts, he was amazing.
Eddie
He's not
Redmayne.
before. He did
I
so
actually
well.
I actually think he was one of the lackluster parts of that.
I thought he
I've
did
seen him in other
fantastic.
things be very good.
I'm just finding that it's really funny that for as little as you've enjoyed this, you know a lot of the technical reasons why it is so bad. So,
He looked into it.
right.
The
Like,
same
why
reason
do
I
I
looked in-
hate this?
It's the
so
same reason I
much?
looked into the Star Wars stuff, despite the fact that I hated it.
I mean,
I'm predisposed to
actually
love Star
really-
Wars, so that's why I need to know why it's bad.
Well, he's apparently predisposed to love French Revolution.
And I actually
not
really like
French,
musicals. So I've watched like most of the. We don't really get good musicals here, so I've watched like
Shocked.
on YouTube, and I watched the musical movies, and a lot of them are like a good. Les Mis is not so good,
Okay.
unfortunately.
All right. Did you take a breath? Are you cleansed? Has the hate
No.
flown through you?
No, he's got more. I can feel it.
Greatest Showman's good. Love like that one.
Yeah. The Greatest Showman's weird.
None of
And
these I've seen.
if we
so-
ignore the part about we're honoring a pretty horrible dude with this movie,
Yeah, but to me, that's.
other than that,
I,
Oh,
Yes,
So-
but it doesn't purport to be. It would be one thing if it said based on a true story, which is why I think there is actually a distinction between based on and inspired by a true story.
Right.
Based on, you're supposed to carry some level of credence. Inspired by is like we can
We
just
borrowed the
fucking
names.
paint over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if you look back through most of history, you'll find that anybody who has had a statue made of them has probably been some kind of some bitch or another, in my estimation.
You really want to touch on that topic?
Firefly reference? Come on, it was right
statues.
there. I'm the only
Statues.
one
He
who's gonna get
didn't watch
yeah.
it. I didn't watch it.
I
and
know. I'm
Andrea
just saying it was gold. It's perfect.
It
and I'm
was
the only
it
one
was
who
gold,
appreciated it.
Justin. I didn't
And I
catch it
know
right away,
it's,
but
it's a moment for the times, right? Like, let's go tear down Andrew Jackson's statue because he's a ripe asshole, but he's also the reason why we are here to have the argument to tear down his statue or not. So
Really, Andrew Jackson is the one you want to go with on that?
I'm saying among the founding fathers,
He's not a
and
founding father.
early presidents, he's right there with. He kind of took that whole what's the shit? Why does it escape me now? It's the entire point of us having the continent right now. But Manifest Destiny, he kind of took that and ran with it. So yes, he's an asshole and he did terrible things, and he's the reason why there are 50 states instead of 14. So
I mean, we were already progressing towards that with Jefferson, so I'm not really giving him credit.
it's a complicated subject that we're not going to cover in the next 14
All right,
minutes.
U.S.
but-
politics next episode.
All right.
Okay.
We're a little even past that. We're starting with Birth of the Nation, and if you want to
Okay,
go that,
okay,
then
first-
fucking watch Hamilton, so we got something to talk about.
Hey, you know who's not in Hamilton? Andrew Jackson.
Because I'll tell you who was a
Because
founding.
he's not a
father,
founding father.
So
You want to yell at me more, so go for it.
no,
You have to pick a
what I
new
was gonna
topic that you
ask,
like.
One of the thoughts that I had in the last week that we didn't talk about, and specifically where I resonated when you brought up this subject, like let's talk about shit that we hate and whatever, was so you talked about the fact that some of what you don't like about Joss Whedon's material is the cheap laughs, and that got me thinking about whether or not I could tell the difference, because one of my points in humor, for example, is like I've gotten away from body humor, right? Like I don't like pee and poop jokes anymore. Farting doesn't necessarily just make me bust out laughing. I don't like Dumb and Dumber, where it's like, let's just make annoying sounds, and isn't that hilarious? To me, those are cheap laughs, right? Joss Whedon apparently has cheap laughs and whatever else, but the thing that you don't like is that he targets those at a more aren't we so smart type of crowd. So since I'm squarely in that crowd, I guess I need somebody to tell me what that looks like.
yeah,
and
check your bias,
specifically
Justin.
provide me an example where like what's a laugh that you do like where's something where the humor did gel with you that isn't like a rom-com or whatever else, something that might make sense, right? Something that would be obvious, right? So
I can't imagine director Alex being into rom-coms.
it was what
I
came
can.
to mind. I wasn't accusing her of anything. So
I love rom-coms, dude. I
He's
love
genetically
rom-coms.
predisposed to it.
Oh geez.
Oh,
Oh, great.
wow.
Ooh.
So speaking of cheap
Demonetized.
laughs, I think I found an example.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so why? I don't know the answer. Why did I not like it in Avengers when Thor and Loki are yelling, and Thor says, "You listen here," and then he gets blown away, and Loki says, "I'm listening," and he's so bleh, bleh. But I do enjoy it in, say, Summer Night when Morgan is yelling at Dresden and he says, "You think you're funny?" And Harry says, "I know I'm funny. Unappreciated, but funny. Why do I enjoy Dresden and not Loki? I don't understand."
I say that quote every day, literally, like
It's
because
really
the wife
good.
is like, "You think you're funny?" And we're like,
I would actually
"I'm funny."
say it's actually, now that you bring it up, it's kind of mind-boggling because I would actually say Jim Butcher humor and Joss Whedon humor are very similar.
But they hit me differently.
Right. Well,
That's why I said
mean,
it's memorable.
breaking down those two scenes, though, right? Like, I mean, yeah, Loki's being a smartass, whereas Dresden's being a wise ass. Like, he's being sarcastic, whereas Loki is just kind of being like taking advantage of the situation. Like, Dresden twists it on him. I don't know. The difference is subtle, but
I do think that's something about it. Like when Dresden makes a joke, he's also laughing at himself. Like for my next trick, anvils.
right,
He's laughing at the fact that it fucking happened.
right.
He's not.
We talked about the
He
Loki
stays
scene.
like
Give
a
me another.
dumbass.
Hit me with another one.
That's it. That's all she's got.
I know, right? She hates Joss Whedon for this one scene. 30 years worth of movies and
that
TV
was a moment
wasted.
that really like stood out to me as of I don't like this. Where is it going?
Okay.
I'm sure there are similar things in Buffy. Like I remember really small pieces of Buffy saying things of like, I'm going to rip that guy's head off. That would have been better if I wasn't wearing popcorn pajamas or something. It's that
Right.
And
I
kind of get what they're going for, but like it didn't hit me right. That's why I
Right.
think maybe I just don't like Buffy, the character that he made, because I do enjoy the random things about Angel.
I was going to say like that might be
Well,
a
Angel's
Sarah
also
Michelle
more
Gellar Buffy type of thing. Like I love the actress, you know, for reasons, and this is going to get weird, but anyway, no, I'm just kidding. So in any case, you know, but like she never sold me on the badass, but in a way that like feels
He
the
definitely
character,
didn't sell me on the badass.
because
That's good.
because
She's
the
kind of not a
character
badass.
is, yeah, but I mean it's kind of the idea behind the Slayer, and I think that's where it gets contrasted with Faith, right? Was her name the other Slayer? You know, where she didn't grow up in suburbia, and she didn't have everything handed to her and whatever else, and you know, she fit what you might expect a, you know, professional demon slayer a little bit better, but you know, like I think that's like the idea behind Buffy, right? Like it's the contrast is you have literally a cheerleader who for inexplicable reasons is the chosen one. So isn't that so adorable and funny? You know, like even the movie, I mean, that's basically.
Well, even Faith back then was a little fresher than that trope of, you know, cranky badass female character
90s.
that hates the world.
Yeah, but we didn't have the pain of 9/11 to fuel all of our art yet, so we didn't know what true pain looked like. You know, because everything's darker after 9/11. No.
Okay.
I mean, come on, Into Darkness, like everything's got to be edgy after 9/11. Star Trek's edgier, Star Wars is edgier. I just watched Rogue One. One of the worst parts of Rogue One is the fact that it's like, we're all murderers and assassins and we've done really bad things for the rebellion, but we're all about to die on screen, so that makes it okay. Like, why?
Well, yeah, but that's
weird.
just that's something that everyone's taken a lot. I would even say post Dark Knight, where it was like that was a success. Let's copy paste that onto fucking everything.
Right.
Because even Batman Begins was not that bad as far as dark and edgy. I mean, it was grimmer, but it wasn't like it was a little. I mean, campy's not the right word, but it was a little more like Gotham was a character in that one,
right?
As opposed to Dark Knight, where it was just like buttfuck city in the middle of nowhere. It didn't matter. It didn't look like Gotham. It didn't feel like Gotham. It was just called Gotham. But it was all this whole like.
Right. Well, I mean, definitely with the Joker and everything, and like everything did. Like, how do we take the Maniac and actually present him as, you know,
Maniac? Yeah.
Right.
It was,
which is fine, but I feel like there's a way that you can do it better if you. I mean, the city's a character because, as Batman in general, if they like they did in the first one with the Narrows and Arkham and this, that, and the other thing, you know, if they play on that a little bit more, it's very easy to get for the Joker to fit into that world just fine, as opposed to just like robbing a random city bank that happens to be called a mob bank in this city. It's just like, meh. The aesthetic is weird.
It's a mob bank because of who was in control, you know, I think. So,
but that's the thing. They took the grim and gritty and like put it into every character. And then it was a big success and everyone took from that, yes, this is what we must do.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah, I get
Except
it. Like
Marvel.
Right. I enjoy the trope, but it's not all that I enjoy. And there are certainly things that like the reason why I enjoyed them had nothing to do with their propensity to be dark and brooding. You know, like I didn't need to see Darth Picard on the bridge of the Enterprise and be like, oh man, you know, sure, the Federation's all happy butterflies, but really secretly underneath it all, they're all douchebags and torturing murderers. You know, like that. I think that's part of why, like, you know, in the 90s, like the, you know, 96-ish, 98 maybe with DS9, like the whole Section 31 was like, wait a minute, like our good guys don't need to also secretly be bad guys. But then you get, you know, like Into Darkness where it's like, no, yeah, we really are kind of like xenophobic maniacs underneath it all. It's okay that there's factions of that. It's okay to deal with those things as like parts of the story and just whatever else. But, you know, like some of these genres of sci-fi or fantasy or whatever else is to escape from that kind of BS, right? I'm trying to think. The example just escaped me. Oh, like so Firefly we're talking about, right? Firefly, one of the big reasons to enjoy Firefly is the anti-government, you know, the government is the evil empire type of thing. In Star Wars, the evil empire is the evil empire, right? But we don't also need the rebellion to be built on the backs of whatever. So exploring that sort of thing through Saw Gerrera is cool. Exploring that sort of thing through like Mon Mothma and her people, less cool, because we don't need her to be dirty. You know, like that's not the story that I'm here for or whatever. In Star Trek, it's the same thing. Like, you know, if you, not that it's happened yet, but there's still more story to be told. But like, if you come by and be like, oh yeah, Picard was actually secretly a genocidal maniac in the meantime, and like, that's not the Trek that I'm watching, guys. Like, go do Battlestar Galactica. That can be gritty and dark and cool. I'll watch it for those types of things. But when you're taking something that wasn't, and you decide to inject those themes.
Was that just a made-up example? Is that what happens in
the
new
Picard
show?
one is made up, but they still have the opportunity to do more there. But you know what I'm saying is like Star Trek in general. Like if you want to get into specifics, right? They obviously took the Khan thing and they made it mainstream, right? Like with Khan's story, like the part of the problem with getting into specific examples is that I'm the only one that cares. So, you know, they took the Khan thing and the Federation went and sought out Khan and said, please make us a Death Star because the Klingons are too tough and the Romulans are too tough and they just blew up Vulcan and we need something to be able to fight this. So they went to go get like Space Hitler because, you know, back in the 90s, we jettisoned him into space to get rid of him to help us build a battleship that we're then going to just mass produce and become this thing. So, you know, yay, Kirk is going to fight the oppression, right? But he's fighting his own government instead of like, you know, opposing factions. I don't want, like, that's not the story I'm trying to watch, you know, I guess is what I'm saying. The rebellion is not built, like, yes, they're built on saboteurs and murderers maybe, but not necessarily like assassins and we killed that kid once because we got to and whatever else, you know, like they make it just this thing that it's like the rebellion's not squeaky clean either, guys. And like, I don't need that level of moral ambiguity. That's not the story we're watching here. We're doing the Hero of a Thousand Faces. We're doing light versus dark, good versus evil. You know, stick to the tropes, I guess, you know, as much as anything. We don't need to take those, yes, very simplistic and targeted towards children types of memes maybe, but we don't need it to be gritty and dark. That's your Batman, that's your Firefly, that's your Battlestar Galactica. There are plenty of examples of that. Don't take something that exists and be like, you know, oh, did you know that Aragorn was secretly a Hobbit abuser? You know, like, no, fucking, he's the king. He's the hero. You know, like Gandalf doesn't have like a Hobbit skin wardrobe, okay? Like, we don't need to know that our hero is secretly like a psychopath and murderer, you know, just, I don't know. End rant. I'm done. I got nothing else.
You don't like it when heroes become bad guys just because it's a new iteration.
Well, you know, because it's edgy or because, you know, maybe even that's true to reality, right?
Right,
like,
but
again,
Dresden actually walking the line of like, is he still a good guy? Is he a monster now? That seems to hit okay.
Yeah, because that's Dresden's character, right? Dresden has always been tainted. He's always been, like, since he was a teenager, he killed somebody, granted in self-defense, right. But in universe, that's always tainted him.
You were not willing to let Michael Carpenter become a murderer.
Right.
Yes,
right.
If Michael Carpenter turns out to be like the bad side of the Catholic Church and he's got a dungeon for kids in his basement, nobody's going to enjoy that.
And taking it even better example than that, right? So Ebenezer's character, Ebenezer is the good guy, but he's the good guy in Dresden's world. So Dresden doesn't want to know that Ebenezer has secretly gone around smashing children with satellites and blowing up volcanoes and shit like that. Ebenezer's not the good guy in my story. In my version of the story, he's a badass. Okay. And that's not to say that everything he's ever done is good, but he definitely has done what needs to be done at times, you know? And so like, and so those examples fall into a different trope of a character. Like if you find out, I'm just trying to think of another, like, maybe Ramirez could be like, his character's undefined enough that we may find out Ramirez one time burned down an orphanage because 4 vampires were inside or something like that, right? Ramirez is one of the good guys.
The idea of civil war was very good.
Right.
It's like something needs to restrain them. Should it be government or not? And like the setup for that was very good. Mm-hmm. The rest of it just didn't hit me right. So maybe I'll try it again and just to see. But it's like
Civil War is not one of the best ones, and there are lots of technical challenges. Like Andreas, I could go into a bunch of details on like why I think it didn't do as well as it could have. I still like the movie though. And I really wish, like, not that I'm intimately familiar with the comics that they're sourced on either, but I really wish they would have hit more of those story beats. But again, there are loads of technical challenges between here and there. I mean, as much as anything, the true story of Civil War has to do with mutants as much as just metahumans or enhanced or whatever they call them in the MCU to skirt around the fact that they don't own the rights to the mutant franchise now. That's literally one hand behind their back. And then they kind of undersell some of the story beats as well, because we got 2.5 hours to tell you what really should be its own multi-movie arc. Probably it really should have, would have, could have been its own phase 2.5 of the Avengers or whatever. They could have maybe wrapped in some of the better story beats into more of, like Winter Soldier, and brought it into a little bit of Iron Man 3 and brought it into a lot of these other things. But they kind of made it like the MCU has addressed some of the story on multiple levels, right? Like, so you've got mini arcs that deal with the individual characters, and sometimes those butt in and overlap with some of the, whether we like it or not, side characters like Black Widow. She doesn't get our main movie until, it gets put on hold indefinitely. She's a strong secondary character, right? But her story is intertwined with Iron Man sometimes. It's intertwined with Captain America sometimes. So you get these little arcs, but then you get the Avengers arc, right? And you get, this is what impacts all of their stories, but this is also what impacts the global stage. So you get, the Hydra storyline. You don't get a lot of the Hydra storyline with Iron Man, because that's not part of his story arc. But you get plenty of the Hydra story with the Avengers, because that's what's going on behind the scenes. So Civil War probably could have, would have, should have been like one of those bigger story arcs, but instead it's a standalone movie, and that is not at all the way that it should have been handled. You brought in some threads from other things. You brought in a little bit from Winter Soldier, but really Winter Soldier is still Captain America's story with a little bit of Black Widow splashed in. I don't think any of the other characters hardly get anything more than a name drop in any of the other stories. So it really could have been, more of that. You get a lot of it brought in with Iron Man, because, Tony Stark is somehow responsible for the entire MCU, because it's Tony Stark's fault that Obadiah was selling weapons to the Afghanis that we've rebranded as, the 10 Rings. It's Tony Stark's fault that the Red Skull had found the Tesseract and was using that to, that's part of the story that majorly falls flat. But, in order to enjoy it, I push that to the side, because it's like they try to put this at Iron Man's feet in a similar vein that you get with Batman a lot of the times too, right? Like the Joker likes to say, well, Bats, the reason why everybody in the city is crazy is because of you, because everybody started popping up at the same time. But that's not how my interpretation of the stories or my worldview usually goes with that, right? Usually the hero rose up to stop a situation. He didn't just show up out of nowhere and start punching quote unquote bad guys in the face, right? Like Iron Man didn't just be like, what would be really cool is to put these thrusters on a suit that is theoretically impossible as far as anybody's concerned, and just start blasting tanks. Isn't that a fun hobby? No, he was responding to being kidnapped by people who had his weapons that were sold to him by his partner, who was an evil profiteering douchebag, which Tony was until that point, because he was divorced from the consequences. And once he saw the real consequences, he had the opportunity that a lot of us do, that this is getting a little real for right now, right? But a lot of us are sitting on the sidelines watching what's unfolding in the streets and everything now. But once you start to see the real world consequences, whether it's coronavirus or whether it's Black Lives Matter or whatever else, then you make a stand. You decide which part of that you're going to, you know, empathize with, if nothing else, if not openly support and push that narrative. But the whole thing with Civil War like really needed to be deeper tied into a lot of the characters. I like that it brought on Black Panther. I really like what they did with his character for a lot of it. I like how they brought, you know, a lot of the world stage type of stuff, but especially with Wakanda, especially because Wakanda is like this innocent third world country that somehow has embassies in other third world countries and stuff like that. And, you know, like the veneer to me is super thin, but, you know, maybe because we know what's really going on. So Civil War is not the strongest story, but it is a fun one. And I like watching the heroes beat each other up. You know, it's part of that. What if, you know, do you think Spider-Man could beat up Captain America? Well, we watch it on screen. So now we know what the MCU's answer is. But because they're both heroes, we got to do it in such a way that they all get to walk away and have a beer afterwards. You know, so, you know, there's strengths and weaknesses. It's not the best one in the MCU. It might have been the best one up to that point even, you know, because I have that vision of the MCU. Each movie is better than the last with a few exceptions. You know, Captain Marvel didn't blow away, you know, Ragnarok. You know, that I'm pretty sure Ragnarok came out before that. Doctor Strange was really good. But again, you know, it probably wasn't like the best, you know, but maybe like second
like
best.
It had some really good actors in it and it had some really funny moments in it. But like as a movie overall, it's just kind of like it didn't know where it was going.
Yeah, I mean,
let it out.
Maybe a little bit. Well, the Psy is getting into a different rant that I feel like, despite the fact that he literally has, you know, unlimited cosmic power, it's sort of an origin story, and he also sort of solves the problem like a wizard. At no point does he be like, you know what would really solve this problem? Fireballs. He doesn't solve it like D&D. He solves it like Gandalf. And so he takes one gimmick and he uses it in an intelligent way, and he gets his ass beat for eons, like literally, like Groundhog Day, a long fucking time, even though no time technically passed. You know, from his subjective view, a lot of time has passed. And also, I thought his power-up gimmick was unique to me as well. That he's like, oh, hey, I learned this one trick, which I can totally, like, you know, astrally project, which means that my soul, for whatever reason, / my brain can run around and do shit while my body is resting. And so he gets to study it 2 or 3 times the pace, you know. So, like, when did you become an expert in thermonuclear physics? Last night, you know, because didn't anybody else do the reading? Sorry, more MCU references, Tony Stark. But
yeah, I did actually remember that reference.
Yeah, see, that's greatness. That's funny shit right there. So, tell me that was cheap somehow.
No taste.
Right. Thank you.
It's not as annoying as the Loki moment. It was just
because he's being a wise ass. Because it is good.
Everybody loves Loki.
I don't. I think Loki's extremely overrated as far as good character, good villain.
Oh my, E.G.
I thought he was actually okay as a character.
E.G. poo-poos on something dialogue everybody else likes.
Yeah.
So I mean, even I kind of like Loki as a character.
Sorry, I don't go by mob rules just because you want to.
You can smell the crazy on him. So, but I think my problem with Loki is the times where he's like, I'm on your side now because random, you know, like some of those things I don't like. I'd rather them dig into his motivations just a touch more. But, you know, when he's being Loki, I think it's great. When it's like, I'm never going to help you and nothing you can say is going to make me change my mind. 5 minutes later, we're on the same side now until I betray you again because I'm Loki. So let's not do get help because we're family and we have this cute family story, but then I'm going to betray you because I'm Loki and that's what I do. So, I don't know. Like, those are the parts of him that I don't like. I don't mind the rest of it.
You mean his character?
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, it is a pillar of his personality.
His entire thing.
So,
his entire shit.
But, like, it's Dark World, right? Dark World is pretty weak for its Loki-ness because, he's in jail and nothing you can do will help him. I mean, I get it. He kind of like wants to go on the vengeance quest for Freya, but it didn't hook me, right? It didn't feel like a genuine motivation somehow. Like
it was also undercut at the end.
Right, sure, because he's gonna betray you because he's Loki.
Because he fakes his own death, so
right, and takes over. So, which honestly, like that was completely glossed over, but yet still great how it paid off in Ragnarok. So, oh shit. So anyway, yeah, so Doctor Strange, great, because he solves it like a wizard. There's a lot of clever wizard solving in there.
I don't remember how he solved it, honestly. Like, I remember thinking, okay, he's doing things, they're blowing up another city, and the consequences aren't going to do shit.
He's got the time stone, and the big bad comes from a dimension that doesn't have time. He doesn't have a concept of time. So what he does is he goes into this dimension without time. He takes the time stone, therefore introducing time, and then he handles it like a total gamer. And he has to watch the cutscene 4 million times as the boss one-shots him every time until he can just work it out between him getting smarter and figuring it out and just brute forcing the encounter, and also the timeless eternal entity being driven mad by repeating the same instance over and fucking over again. Because if I had the same conversation with you verbatim every 30 seconds for 10,000 years, you would also just give up and go home. And that's, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of stupid, but it's kind of like, but it's clever. I think I got more on the clever part. It was very simple. Like the MacGuffin part of it wasn't anything to do with him. It was just, I read a book about the powers this gem has, and I'm only really level 1, so I can only do about this much for it. But I did that one thing, and I used that against the world-ending, universe-eating bad guy until he gave up and went home. And I thought that was hilarious, So kind of again, like the astral projection thing. He learned one trick. Yeah, like in the entire movie, how many actual magical skills does he show? He gets a little bit with the shield, he gets a little bit with the sling ring, but even still, how he uses the sling ring compared to what all of the actual wizards are used to is novel. So, so like him using it against Wong to steal a bunch of books, even the one that he's reading, probably a stupid joke, hilarious to me though. So that kind of physical comedy.
Cheap
laugh. Yeah, right.
Ooh, cheap laugh.
And come on, Wong being the serious, like, do people think that you're funny? Oh, they probably worked for you. But then listening to Beyonce because, Doctor Strange made a reference to it, like, it worked for me. So I like it when the characters are clever. So.
Yes, generally. I don't remember them being clever.
Yeah. Because you hate them. And you're like, this is garbage. Abort. Get that out of my memory.
It was middling. Like, it didn't... I mean, there was, like... the moment when Mads Mikkelsen was, like charging into the building and they were, like, having a conversation about their names, it's like, it's strange. Doctor Strange. Like that,
who am I to judge?
That fucking moment was really good.
Yes.
And I would
and ruined by the trailers.
I didn't. The trailers.
Yeah. But yeah, with Marvel movies, I watched the first trailer and then that's it.
No, even that.
Because I'm going to see it anyway.
They do too much. They almost haven't. But every once in a while, they learn their lesson.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they put like some of the really good shit in there. It's like, why? Everyone's going to go watch your movie anyway.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so I do it because I want to be even more pumped about the movie, but I won't watch anymore because, like Hollywood doesn't know how to not spoil shit in the trailers anymore.
It's utterly baffling to me.
The one that really ruined it for me was Justice League, because by the second trailer, they're like, we're going to show you who the real bad guy is. And I'm like, bro, let me be straight with you. I am a superhero fan. Okay. I love the movies. I love the stories. I love whatever. I didn't read every comic. I haven't even read a lot of the comics. Okay. I know that Superman and Batman aren't actually going to beat each other to death because I know how that story is going to go. Right. You don't need to tell me that they're secretly really a real villain. that would have been perfectly acceptable to reveal that not Justice League, it's Batman versus Superman. That would
where they waste a good villain.
Yeah, they waste a good villain, but still, they were like, P.S. I know it says Batman versus Superman, but they're not really going to fight that much. I'm like, no, that's
honestly, they did you a favor. You should have known not to go see that movie.
Well, probably. I mean, when your plot point is, why did you say that name? What are the odds that our mothers are named the same thing?
Oh, Jesus God.
Why? I'm super disciplined, but I can't focus on why you'd say Martha.
And this whole push, and I think we've touched on it before about the whole Snyder cut of the Justice League, and I'm like, first of all, even if this movie is anywhere near better than what it was, it's not going to be indicative of anything. Your movement didn't do anything because you got extra money and extra time to work on it that no other director has ever had this chance. So that's not going to help you make your case that this should always be the
circumstances, though, too.
I don't care.
So
I don't care.
He's an artist.
Movies were shit before that.
Yes, and he's an artist, and he should be able to deliver on what he was commissioned to do. And because of his extenuating circumstances, I'm willing to humor it and even go see it.
Is that everyone who pushed for this they're not going to admit that it was just as bad anyway when it finally pops out.
Well, because a lot of those are Snyder fanboys anyway.
Right, so there's going to be this whole hype and like, oh my God, it got such a better rating. And some people are going to look at that and people are going to make stupid decisions based off of that and just be like, wait a minute, no.
And you're going to be mad about it. And the world will spin on.
No, it won't.
Yeah. This is it. This is the fuck up to end all fuck ups.
Done.
None of the stuff with politics mattered. The coronavirus doesn't matter.
And in true HBO fashion, they're making it like a 10-part miniseries instead.
Right.
And it's like
this was the 2020's taking it too far. This is the true apocalypse. Like
honestly, it's not gonna go down as a good part.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean, this is going to be like Killer Bees rating.
Meanwhile, you have the other end of the spectrum where it's like Sonic fans or people in general was like, "What the fuck is this monstrosity?" They changed the design. This is a good thing.
It was a decent movie. I will go see the second one.
Adequate, entertaining movie.
Right.
Was?
Yeah.
Sonic
Did you not see it or
no?
So I mean, I'm not going to die on this hill to be like, go watch the movie. I didn't play the Sonic games. My boy is playing a Sonic game right now, and I'm too old for this shit. But he's funny, and they hit the right funny buttons, and what's his face? Jim Carrey is not...
You get the excuse of seeing that movie because you have a 5-year-old.
I don't have a 5-year-old, and
I'm going to own it. That is not why I saw the movie.
I was going to say, I don't have a kid. I watched it.
It's why I was allowed to see the movie.
I don't think it's
why I put it on. So
I don't think it's the game fans you gotta ask. It's the cartoon because there was never a lot of story in it.
And I watched the hell out of the cartoon, but even still, like the cartoon doesn't age well. I can tell you that much because we've shown.
I remember there was like there was 2 Sonic cartoons, or maybe it was 2 seasons, and they were jarringly different. Like they went really edgy with the second one. Do anyone remember that?
No, because I never watched it.
I remember it.
It's been 20 years, so not so much.
One general theme of this episode of ours is edgy is not always good.
Right. Yeah. So
just look at Twilight.
We're well over time, but
and I know you looked at the clock like 4 times. It's like I'm still gonna start yelling.
No, I mean because you haven't cut me off yet. That's why I keep running with it. So
you haven't plugged anything.
That too. The end point is that if it's a badly written story, if you don't follow the rules of storytelling, it's not going to be good, whether it's Star Wars or Star Trek or Sonic or anything like that.
DC.
And that's why I think MCU works, is that they generally follow storytelling guidelines and they're internally consistent, which is, the second thing that's important to me. I think that's why Deadpool worked, is because, they followed their own rules and they kept it internally consistent. Even with the sequel, there wasn't anything to really jump out. And he kind of has the superpower that because he breaks the fourth wall, it doesn't really matter anyway. So in a way they can throw out the walls because he has literally got all of the crazy of the Marvel universe, intersects with his story. But it's things like that. And, it would take way too long to get into more of it, but it's like if you make illogical jumps, if you just bring in crazy batshit things that have nothing to do with the rest of the story you've been trying to tell, like it becomes Deus Ex in a way, right? Like that's been part of my problem with some of the new Star Wars, to just bring that in because I don't have to lay a new foundation to have this argument, right? So, I think the reason why the hyperspace missile threw everybody for a loop is that in a way it could be we're using technology in a novel and neat way, right? And it could be she was being creative with the tools that she had on her hand, right? But it becomes a kind of like Deus Ex because nothing has given us an indication of an inkling that anybody's ever thought of anything remotely like this before. We just needed an eject button for the plot. We needed to somehow get rid of this ship. We needed to somehow jump out of this, and it becomes bad writing to me. And I think that's a lot of the difference. It's Star Trek. Oh boy, we've got a star blow up on the other side of the sector that's going to take 500 years to get here, but for some reason it's going to happen in 3 days. So we came up with another thing called red matter, which is really just a MacGuffin to hide the Deus Ex. That is, we're going to solve this problem. We created a problem that we could only solve by fixing something else. So no, it's Deuce because it sounds even stupider that way. So,
but that's the name.
Yes. Yeah, great. Because he's Zeus instead of Zeus. So. Anyway, the point is, it's bad writing. Like me, I'm a poorly written character who has got like 90% in his yell skill, which is the only thing that makes that work. So like that's my defining feature, but gets upset about stupid shit and puts out videos on the internet. I mean, that's kind of the American dream. We could just
change the name to this project thing of Justin yells about something.
Yeah, there's way too many podcasters like that. Like I've definitely considered like Justin's mad about everything, but they already have that. That guy's got his podcast. It's fine. So I missed the boat. So I've just been yelling for free all my life for no fucking reason. I could have been making you guys pay me for it.
You could have at least been standing on a lawn or something, yelling at some kids. I don't know. Like
he's got his own kids to yell at them.
So true.
Next.
Speaking of which, it's been like an hour and a half. I gotta go yell at them now. So
next episode, are we gonna do? Are we gonna do why we do like things? Some things we do like.
Oh boy,
that sounds hard.
Now,
like try to be positive.
Perfectly acceptable.
I'm good with it.
All right. Why we like things next time? Do some research.
It's funny because it's going to be the same things we've already yelled about, but in the reverse. Right. I'm going to tell you all the things I do like about Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah.
So.
Fucking okay. Yeah. Sure. We'll try that. As long as it doesn't just become Dresden.
I've got plenty of shit I can complain about Dresden. We don't have to talk about that.
I worry about like the thing that we enjoy is a thing that we've already been talking about for 5 years.
Yeah, but I have other
It's inevitably going to come out just to make it not a focus.
We never talk about Sanderson. I love Sanderson. I could talk about Sanderson.
You're the only one.
I mean, I like Sanderson, but it's only a 2-person conversation out of 4 people.
Well, that's like
we could talk about this book that whatever Andreas was upset about earlier.
Please don't.
I was not upset. I was happy. But the land. We don't talk about that.
We don't mention that.
Sorry.
I'm
mad about the land because there's so much.
Maybe we can try to okay, guys, this is why this is great or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Right, we get the premise.
And by next time, I don't mean next week because that will be Dresden Files podcast. But
which I won't be here for.
Oh man, it's coming Tuesday.
I know it's only like 3 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm considering making
for all of you. I'm not going to even have it Tuesday, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, making like a full.
You might. There's a lot of people who've been getting the deliveries early, a lot.
Possible, but I'm not holding out for it, and I'm certainly not rushing through it to get on the episode.
Right.
We'll figure out a non-spoiler episode.
I really hope you've erected your Faraday cage because.
Oh, I'm easy. Once the book is released on Tuesday, the entire Discord gets muted, and I'm not even going to probably open Reddit.
I mean, in this day and age, I wouldn't go online because the algorithms will just feed you more shit about the shit that you like.
No, because the other stuff I go on, it has absolutely no knowledge or care about Dresden whatsoever.
I was actually considering making like a full Peace Talk review for like launch day for my YouTube channel, but maybe I should wait like a day. I don't know. But I want it to be up so when people search Peace Talks
Yeah, I
review,
know you want to go get the algorithm hit.
I want to get that algorithm hit. You know,
I want that sweet algorithm money.
Oh boy.
Mm.
give it to me.
All right.
Why Dresden
Bill-
Files is good and The Last of Us 2 is bad. Double algorithm.
Ooh.
Right.
Ooh,
Yeah.
double algorithm.
Okay.
Also
Do
PewDiePie.
we have to plug shit now?
Also, BrokenJoss.xyz.
Drive through RPG.
Drive
We
through
do this
RPG.
and we do
We have a
Dresden Files.
Patreon. We would love your money. Please give us
Yeah.
money.
Lots of money. Money. would be
$12,000 a month, and we'll talk about whatever you want.
You'll get access to
Unless
our
we get
very
defunded.
Almost
the
exclusive
point.
Discord server.
For a single $1 though. Like that, like
For
our
a buck.
exclusive Discord.
I was gonna say,
$12,000.
you would think we
If
would.
somebody's
You
gonna
would
pay
think
that.
we would have
You
more
can-
people on
you
there,
can get-
given how cheap
You
it
can
is.
get look at me in the eyes, you guys. You can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can get this interaction, this personal experience, one-on-one on Discord at
in
any
text
time,
form,
in text form for $1.
so you won't be,
$1.
so you won't be able to tell the tone or the tenor of what we're actually talking about. You'll just think everything's an insult.
No, I mean
We may
that's
not
pretty
actually
much
live
normal.
up to that, but you know, we'll
We,
try.
Some
You-
restrictions
you,
may apply.
You,
Some
who are the
restrictions may
least
apply.
active on there, will
Your
not live
mileage
up to
may
that.
vary.
Get a ping at 4 a.m. Danish time. It's like, no, I'm